My neighbor's older brother, Ben, was once a piano prodigy. At 15, he won countless awards. But after he met my classmate Anna, he let her sit on his beloved piano, kissing him with a giggle. He even quit school for her, broke his piano, and spiraled downward. So, I told his parents. Ben was forced to study abroad. Later, he became a star, the brightest in the entertainment world. I joined his company as a trainee. Without looking up, he pointed at me and said, "Choose her." That night, I got drunk and was sent to rooms of major investors by my manager. He stood at the door, biting his cigarette with a slight smile. "I guess this is my thanks for your snitching back then." I was humiliated to death on that cold winter night. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to when nothing had happened yet. "You said bringing someone like Ben down from his pedestal felt great, didn't it?" His lips were so thin, I wonder how his kissing was? My desk mate leaned on her hand, teasing. Across the yard, by the floor-to-ceiling window, sat a tall figure. It was 18-year-old Ben. I snapped back, clutching my chest as I gasped for air. Next to me was Anna. In the last life, she leaned on her hand, staring flirtatiously at Ben as if she was determined to win him over. I thought she was just boasting. That night, I saw her sitting on Ben's piano, kissing him with her head down. I'm back. I returned to the time before it all went down. Trying to stay calm, I shut the window. "I'm going to study. If you're free, go home, okay?" Anna pouted, "Aren't you curious? Don't you have a crush on him?" I stiffened suddenly. At 17, I made 2 mistakes. 1, I had a crush on Ben but didn't have the courage to express it. 2, I told on him and Anna's early romance. So, he hated me for 6 years. He even destroyed me to get revenge for my betrayal. Remembering that desperate winter night from the last life, I clenched my fingers, biting my lip till it bled. "No, I never had a crush on him," I calmly replied. Anna smirked mischievously, curling her lips. "Great, then I've been meaning to tell you, I'm with Ben. Didn't want to upset you." The last life, Anna did the same, boldly declaring her territory. Anna was flamboyant. Almost every handsome guy in school has been with her. A wild child, while others prepped for exams, she partied. Not the good girl type, but that kind of girl was somehow irresistibly attractive to those who followed the rules. Ben was clearly one of them. Thinking of the last moments of my past life. My hand, covered in cigarette burns, clutched Ben's white shirt sleeve. Begging him to spare me. "No matter how much you hate me, you didn't have to go this far." Ben looked at me, his thin lips curling a bit. Sneered, "What other way then? If it wasn't for you, Anna wouldn't have married someone else and died during labor. Why should you live well when she died? Karina, it isn't fair." Yes, because of my snitching in the past life. Ben was forced abroad, leaving Anna to fail her art exams and marry a street thug. Soon, she became a single mother, neglected by her parents, then abandoned by the thug, dying in a back alley clinic. Ben always thought if I hadn't tattled, if he hadn't left, Anna wouldn't have died. So it was all my fault. I lowered my gaze. "Well, I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." Anna gave me a surprised look but said nothing. Days passed. They secretly dated, like any young couple, skipping class to watch movies, sharing tattoos near their hearts, kissing on romantic Ferris wheels, racing motorcycles in the midnight streets. They forgot they were still students. I watched silently. I focused on my university entrance prep. In the past life, because of Ben, I chose the same high school to become an art student, always chasing his shadow, trying to touch his light. Now I plan to switch to a regular student, retake the entrance exams, and forge my own path. It would be tough, but no matter what, I wanted to try. Until I overheard Anna boasting at school. That Ben is just a piano nerd. He knows nothing. Without all his competitions and fame, who'd want to be with him? Classmates murmured. Yeah, right? You just play around with him, huh? Anna confidently stated, don't doubt it. I say east, he doesn't dare go west. There's a piano competition soon, can you make him bail? Anna said, piece of cake, just watch. I sat nearby. I knew the competition winner gets into a famous music school abroad. I knew how much it meant to him. Of course, even without my intervention, last life's critical moments happened again. Last time I knew Anna's intentions were bad. Tried hinting to Ben, but he thought I was causing trouble. After hesitating, I alerted his parents. Their intervention brought a storm, forcing a breakup. Eventually, Ben still missed the top spot due to poor condition. But he still got an overseas study chance. And yet, he held a grudge against me for years, even destroying me as payback. Realizing this, Anna was in my face, winking, Karina, you won't snitch, right? I lowered my head, opening my book. Of course not. This life, I chose silence. Respecting others' fates. Until I saw Ben outside my house. First encounter since my rebirth. With memories of things he did to me, I suppressed disgust. Glancing down, scattered broken beer bottles lay around. His hands bled a little. Upon seeing me, he jumped up, red-eyed, clutching me. Karina, you're close with Anna, right? Can you reach her for me? She says we're done, but I can't live without her. She thinks the piano's boring, I'll quit. She's way more important. Help me, please. I'm out of options, I love her and I'd give up anything for her. I looked at the unkempt boy in front of me. He no longer had the aura he once did. His long, pale hands were cut by a beer bottle, and he didn't even care. But in my memory, he treasured those hands. He used to say he thanked heaven for giving him hands that could play beautiful music. He enjoyed the rhythm of his fingers dancing across the piano keys. A pianist's hands are their most valuable asset, yet right now, in his eyes, they pale in importance compared to Anna. He's not the same person I admired back then. It seems like loved ones only exist in memories. I thought for a moment and took out my phone to call Anna. Anna, Ben is drunk at my house. Can you come over? He stood beside me carefully, looking at the phone expectantly. Anna seemed to snicker on the other end. Then she said, can you ask him if he'd really do anything for me? I had the speakerphone on, so Ben heard it too. He hurriedly said, of course I would. Then don't participate in the competition, Anna said before hanging up, leaving Ben stunned in place. I looked at Ben, curious to see what choice he'd make without my intervention, dreams or love. What would he choose? Ben hung his head, and after a while, he chuckled bitterly, saying, do I really have to give up the competition to prove how important she is to me? He wasn't asking me, but I knew he had his answer. I didn't say much, just watched him leave despondently. Ben really didn't go to the piano competition because his hands were injured. Amazingly, he and Anna got back together. I saw them sweetly holding hands, heading home from school. The light in Ben's eyes shone again as he gazed lovingly at the girl beside him. In the alley on the way home, Anna held a cigarette in her left hand, blowing smoke into his face. Ben affectionately ruffled her hair and kissed the corner of her mouth, then put his arm around her waist and walked into a nearby pool hall, laughing and joking with a bunch of young punks. I sighed, turning away to play the role of a complete bystander. It wasn't until Ben's mom found our class that things escalated. Ben's mother, Jenny, was a teacher, always proper and serious in my eyes. She used to lovingly help me with my homework, praising me as a smart kid. Ben's family was modest, his dad worked in a small company, and his mom was a high school teacher. They've always pinned high hopes on Ben. When she learned Ben loved piano, Jenny didn't hesitate to use up her savings to buy him an expensive piano. Ben didn't disappoint them, winning countless awards big and small. As long as he graduated from high school, he'd get an offer from a prestigious music school abroad. This competition was supposed to be his stepping stone. But Ben squandered his chances. Standing before our class, Jenny's face twisted with anger, and she slapped Anna, leaving 5 red marks on her glamorous cheek. Anna stared back in disbelief and shouted, "What right do you have to hit me?" Jenny sneered, "What right? Just because you, at such a young age, lead my son astray. Do you know how much effort I've put into getting him this far? And you dare lure him into giving up the piano competition for you?" Jenny didn't work at our school, so while Anna and Ben dated openly, even the teachers knew about it. But since Ben had such a promising future, after his college entrance exams, he could easily get into prestigious schools abroad. So, apart from shaking their heads and sighing about what a good guy he was with someone like Anna, the teachers didn't interfere much. Anna, now white-faced, insisted, "Lure him? Jenny, your son begged me to be with him. I didn't force him at knife point to quit the competition. It was his choice." Jenny, eyes flipping with rage, reached to pull Anna's hair. A curious onlooker had already run out of the classroom, and soon Ben got word and rushed over. He pushed his mother away, standing protectively in front of Anna. "Mom, you're nuts. Hit me if you want." The decision to quit was mine, it had nothing to do with her. Jenny probably didn't expect her usually obedient and sensible son to contradict her for a girl. Furious, she was shaking, on the brink of collapse. She slapped Ben too, then suddenly pointed to me amid the crowd and asked, "Why her? Even if it were someone like Karina, I'd forcibly accept. Are you trying to kill me?" Caught off guard, I stood frozen. This hadn't happened in another life. Jenny never came to the school, even later when she found out they were dating. They handled it more discreetly then. But not this time, she's making a scene, embarrassing them both. As Jenny called me out, everyone turned their eyes toward me. Anna, as if realizing something, suddenly glared at me, "Karina, did you rat us out? How could you? I thought you were my best friend." Ben also looked at me, lips tight, but his gaze was frightening. I was about to burst, I hadn't done a thing, yet everything was pinned on me. I shrugged, "It's not me. I didn't say anything, and I don't want to be involved in your issues. If you're gonna argue, take it outside and don't disturb others who are studying. Also, Aunt Jenny, please clarify that this is not my doing." Anna, however, was convinced I was the snitch. Ben's teacher soon arrived, pulling Jenny back, urging her to calm down. Jenny finally reined in her temper. "If your teachers hadn't informed me, I wouldn't even know what you've been up to behind my back." Jenny and their teacher were classmates, so the news came from the teacher. That cleared my name. This scandal had grown, the whole school knew about it. Early romances weren't uncommon, and some parents did make a scene at school, often ending with the couple splitting up or one transferring. Anna was an art student with some academic neglect, believing she could easily get into a school with her looks. She wouldn't transfer for Ben. She felt wronged. Ben too felt guilty for dragging Anna down, letting her be humiliated by his mom. After Jenny took him home, he went so far as to go on a hunger strike, even smashing his beloved piano, clashing with his parents to the end. I saw Ben after a half-month, and that day was the first in 2 months I heard the piano. Since being with Anna, he rarely played, but it stopped abruptly. In the middle of the night, an ambulance came to their house. My parents heard it, threw on some coats, and rushed outside to help. Turns out Ben's parents were carrying Ben out. His right hand was covered in blood, soaked through his white shirt. I looked at his pale, weak face, and he had a smug smile. As he passed by me, he said, "I want to live my life for Anna. Don't get in my way, Karina, or you know the consequences." I stood there frozen, like I was paralyzed. Ben's fingers were broken. Even though they found out early, they couldn't be restored to their original condition. His parents finally agreed to let them be together. Ben couldn't play piano anymore. He didn't care though. He just said it was proof of his love for Anna, a mark of his youth. But I knew those hands could play the most beautiful music. He could have been performing in big concerts, with everyone admiring him. Now they were officially together. I heard they broke up several times. Anna started making demands for expensive gifts no student could afford once she was acknowledged as Ben's fiancée. His parents hated her like she was the enemy and cut off his allowance. They rented a place outside of school, living off the prize money Ben had won over the years. They managed okay for a while. I didn't care about any of it, kept my head down, grinding through test papers. It was exhausting, but I submitted a satisfying college entrance exam in the end. Ben didn't do well on his exams due to his injury. He had no choice but to take the regular college route, as his hand injury ended any chance of a piano career. After exams, our class had a farewell party. Anna brought Ben along. She wore an expensive Chanel-style suit, with wavy hair, looking mature for our age. Ben had dyed his hair silver because Anna liked it. The teacher left early, leaving just us classmates. People who didn't dare to confess their feelings did so as if it was a confession party. One girl nudged me seeing Anna, muttering, "Don't know what she's so smug about, looking like a hooker." All those brands can't hide the trashy vibes. Anna's high-profile presence was not well liked by the high scholars. Of course, Anna heard it, and she looked over coldly. "Oh wow, who's this? An ugly nobody daring to gossip? So pathetic you don't even have a man? I'm not like some two-faced backstabber." Anna threw a challenging look at me. After the last incident, she'd held a grudge, even though I explained it wasn't me who snitched. Their relationship was so public that hiding it was impossible. My friend noticed Anna targeting me and shot her a glare, scoffing, "You may value Ben, but no one else does. Besides, he can't even play piano now." Ben looked embarrassed overhearing this. Anna, however, clung to his arm and chimed in, "Who cares, he's handsome and can make bank in entertainment. You nerds can't compete." She turned to Ben and said, "Kiss me." Ben sighed, "Not now, so many people." Anna retorted, "Why? You're cool with it usually, but Karina's presence bothers you now?" Ben glanced at me, seemingly flustered and ready to explain. I cut in, "Anna, this is a class reunion, not your personal love nest. Don't involve me." I tried leaving, but Anna stopped me, taunting, "Don't act like I don't know about the love letters you hid under your desk. Pretend all you want, you liked Ben too." Turns out, Anna knew about my crush on Ben for a while. Doesn't it sting when friends snag who you like? I realized, but this life, I wasn't as impulsive. It's normal to have a teenage crush, and I never let it interfere with anyone's life, or mine. I wasn't ashamed. "I don't see Ben as a gem, Anna," I said plainly. Ben seemed surprised, thrown off by my words. But I was done engaging and walked out of the KTV. The night air cleared my head as I waited for a cab. Then I heard footsteps behind me. It was Ben. "Don't mind Anna, she's blunt but doesn't mean it." I stood still at the curb. Our shadows were cast on the dimly lit street. I asked, "Are you happy?" He seemed puzzled. "Are you? With Anna?" I asked again. He exhaled sharply. "You've come back too?" Yeah, from the moment Ben's fingers were injured, I knew he was reborn. Now both of us had memories from our past lives. Before, I alone carried those memories. I could bury that hatred inside. But now, with Ben also remembering, I said, "Relax, I won't meddle this time. If I knew how much you hated me back then, I'd never have acted. But it's pointless now." I turned to look at him, not the image I recalled, neither resembling his successful past self. "Sorry for what happened before, but Anna's innocent. Don't resent her," he began. I cut him off, "Everything's been reset. I won't dig up old events. You and Anna are none of my concern. That's it. Goodbye, or rather, see you never." I thought Ben really felt guilty for what he did to me in the past life. But it turns out he was just worried I'd get back at Anna. He thought too highly of himself. Watching him hit rock bottom, stuck in the mud forever, that's way more satisfying than any revenge. Anna chased us outside from the KTV, seeing us talking by the street. She shrieked, rushed over, and slapped Ben right across the face. "Good job, Ben," she screamed. "You sneak around with this little tramp behind my back. What, tired of seeing me? I've given you so much and this is how you repay me? Where's your conscience? I got kicked out of art school for you. I can't be a star now. Do you even care about me and the baby I'm carrying?" Anna was pregnant? I glanced at the two of them, surprised. Just then, a cab pulled up. I quickly jumped in, afraid that if I waited any longer, something might happen to Anna and Ben would come after me for it. I later heard from classmates that Anna found out she was pregnant during a checkup. She wanted to terminate it, but Ben insisted she keep it. Figures, in the past life, Anna had complications from an abortion at a sketchy clinic and died. Just like a tragic story you'd read about teenage angst. No way Ben would let history repeat itself this time. But none of it concerned me. After the college entrance exam results came out, Ben's scores were only good enough for a low-tier college. No surprise about Anna, she didn't even pass the health exam for art school. My scores weren't stellar either, but at least I got into a well-known university, headed to the school of my dreams. I could finally put some distance between us. To celebrate me coming to my senses and getting into a good school, my parents threw a big party, inviting friends and family. Since Ben's family lived next door, they were invited too. Of course, Ben didn't show up. My usually quiet dad got a bit tipsy, his face red as he toasted everyone. When he got to Ben's parents, he couldn't help but say, "Ben, what a shame. I watched him grow up. I always told Karina to work hard like her brother Ben." Jenny's eyes got teary, looking really awkward as she forced a smile. Who wouldn't agree? Young people today, what can you do? "I wish he were as smart and mature as Karina," she said. My mom quickly tugged at Dad's sleeve, reminding him to be careful with his words, not to pour salt in the wound. My dad let out an awkward laugh. "Don't worry, Ben's a genius. Even if he doesn't pursue piano, he could do well in regular college." But without my meddling in this lifetime, Ben had a fallout with his parents and didn't go study abroad. After injuring his hand, he chose to leave piano behind, deciding instead to be with his first love. He didn't go to college but took on his responsibilities as a man, taking care of Anna and their baby. During my university years, I'd occasionally hear updates about them through classmates. Word was, they had a wedding, though they didn't officially get married since they weren't of age. Ben got a job at a piano training class, teaching kids, which wasn't hard with his background. The pay was just enough to support himself. I heard their life was simple but happy. Eventually, I got caught up in my studies and stopped checking the high school group chat. After graduation, knowing a bit about future trends from my past life, I joined a good company. Within 3 years, I climbed up the ranks, becoming an admired supervisor with $1 million salary. My parents worried about me not being married, saying I was getting older and should find someone. I always brushed them off. Finally, my dad asked, "Karina, are you still thinking about Ben?" I paused, surprised. I hadn't heard Ben's name in forever. He didn't enter the entertainment world this time around, didn't become a famous musician. He quietly faded from the limelight. I collected my thoughts, chuckling. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Just wondering, I heard Ben's in LA, running a small business and doing pretty well." With the memories of the past, I knew that whichever way, Ben wouldn't have a terrible life this time. "Isn't he married?" "How he's doing has nothing to do with me." "Right, his stuff. Anyway, your mom's calling me for dinner. Take care of yourself out there, okay?" My dad rushed off the phone, leaving me deep in thought. Then unexpectedly, I bumped into Ben. It happened at a small, boutique restaurant with a unique vibe, introduced by a friend as a date spot with a guy named Larry. I'd met Larry a few times, a young man, smart and promising. He seemed really interested in me, so I agreed to meet him again. He was early, and as I sat down, he asked, "Cold outside? Want something to drink?" "My friend owns this place, their coffee's really good." I replied, "Anything's fine." My eyes scanned the room until they landed on a corner with a piano. I froze, memories flooding back like a wave. I instinctively walked over. On one corner of the piano, there was a spot where the finish was chipped, covered with a Doraemon sticker. It had yellowed over time but still stuck on firmly, showing it had been well cared for. Memories rushed in. When I was 12, both my parents were working late. The power was out in nearby neighborhoods due to electrical work. Terrified, I sat by the window with a flashlight, thinking of all the scary movies I'd seen with friends, and cried. Suddenly, someone tapped on the window, startling me into a scream. A gentle voice followed, "Don't cry, I'm Ben, from next door. Heard you crying, scared of the dark. Had dinner yet? My mom made some, there's plenty." When I didn't reply, he didn't push. A while later, a lunchbox was pushed in through the window. "If you're still scared, I can play piano for you." That night, the power never came back on. Ben played song after song from next door, keeping me company through the long night. That piano was Ben's. The sticker, from when I got to know him better, I'd accidentally scratched the finish off when I visited. I was scared at the time. Even as a kid, I knew pianos were expensive, and my parents would kill me if they found out. But Ben just ruffled my hair and said, "It's okay, no big deal." Back then, we put on that cartoon sticker together. It turns out, you shouldn't meet someone too stunning when you're young. My thoughts came back. Larry noticed my interest in the piano. He couldn't help but ask, "Do you play the piano too?" I shook my head, pressed a few keys, and chuckled, "I don't, but someone I knew used to. They played really well." Larry grinned at me. "Well, that's a coincidence. My friend plays too, but he injured his hand. I used to joke that if he hadn't, he could have been a piano master." I was stunned. "Your friend?" "Yeah, he's the owner of this place." Following Larry's gaze, I instinctively turned around. There stood a man in a black shirt, a slight beard on his handsome face, wearing an apron. Ben looked much older, not youthful at all, more like someone beaten by life into middle age. Ben didn't seem to recognize me. He walked over, with a slight limp, and I noticed he had a prosthetic leg. He naturally greeted my friend, Larry, saying, "Your girlfriend? She's pretty. Why haven't you brought her around before?" Larry gave an awkward smile. "Don't say that, Karina hasn't accepted my advances yet." He seemed frozen for a minute, before his eyes finally landed on my face, as if confirming something. Finally, he spoke, "Karina?" "Ben, long time no see." I nodded slightly, laughing a bit. "You've changed a lot, I almost didn't recognize you." Ben seemed to be searching in his memory for my old image. I said casually, "Well, I'm not the same as I was in school." Larry glanced between us. "You two know each other?" "What a coincidence." "Yeah, quite a coincidence. Almost weirdly so." Larry excused himself to the bathroom, leaving us alone. Ben finally spoke up, "How have you been all these years?" "As you can see, not bad." Ben nodded, glancing towards where Larry had gone. "Larry's a good guy, genuine, hardworking, comes from a good family, he's a good match." I snorted, not responding. We didn't really have anything to say. "Do you still play piano?" I suddenly asked. Surprised, he looked up, then let out a bitter laugh. "I play occasionally, but you know, my hand's injured. There's no way I can play like I did at 15. What about Anna? The kid should be in elementary school by now, right?" He was silent for a while. "We got divorced." He then started talking about his experiences over the years. He didn't take the college entrance exam back then. After blowing through the prize money from various competitions, they fell into hard times. Anna wanted the best of everything: hospitals, a mountain of supplements. But having a baby is no small task, it's expensive. After the child was born, Anna insisted on hiring a nanny, but by then they were broke. Anna's parents had already cut her off, so there was no way they could help. Ben had to support his family while also caring for Anna and the child. He thought about asking his parents for help, but maybe it was pride, or maybe it was because of memories from a past life. He thought earning money would not be hard if he was willing. He copied several hit songs from his past life and submitted them to production companies, but with no connections, he was rejected. Once, he even got accused of plagiarism for a song that hadn't been released yet. Ben was sued and had to pay a large amount. His parents reached out, saying they would help if he broke up with Anna. Ben refused and borrowed from loan sharks. Unable to repay, he ended up getting his leg broken by debt collectors. Life was tough during that period, yet Anna didn't understand. She'd call him useless, saying even male models made more money. Their conflicts over money and baby formula escalated. What little beauty from their youth eroded under the pressures of everyday life. Anna would dress up and leave, coming back drunk every day. Ben, lying in bed, exhaustively cared for the crying baby. The fights grew worse. Eventually, when the kid was 4 months old, Anna left one day and never returned. Ben took the child back home. After being down for a couple of years, he bounced back, starting small stalls, doing anything he could. The hands that once played piano now were calloused and rough. Slowly, he saved up enough to open this coffee shop. Hearing all this, I couldn't help but feel a bit wistful, but that's all it was. Larry returned, ending our conversation. As we were leaving, Ben couldn't help but call after me, "Do you still hate me?" I turned to look at him. Hate? Hate you for what? For sending me into investors' rooms, for not helping when I was down? He gave a bitter smile. In our last life, I was too extreme, too arrogant. I blamed you for Anna's death. I'm sorry. The apology, 8 years too late. But I didn't need it now. I was just curious about one thing. He asked, "What?" "In this life, you chose the life you wanted, with Anna. But ended up like this, do you regret it?" He hesitated, replying not with words, but I already knew the answer. During the new year, I went back to my hometown. Helped my parents move. I got them a big place in the city center. Got my dad a new car. While moving, I ran into Ben's parents. Inside their house, arguments echoed. Dishes crashed to the floor. I curiously asked my parents, "Do they argue often?" Mom was ready for some gossip. "You haven't been back these years, did you know? Ben had a kid with a woman, a son. The woman ran off. I think she was your high school classmate, right? She couldn't stand Ben being a cripple and not making money, ran off with a rich guy. Just last month, she suddenly came back, all dressed up fancy. Guess what she came back for?" I frowned. "To see the kid?" "Exactly, she wanted to take him. But Ben's parents wouldn't allow it. Then she dropped a bombshell, said the kid's not even Ben's. She had him with some other man, spent all these years living with the child's real father. Seems like he's well off now, but can't have kids, so she wants to take him back." I was stunned. I didn't expect that. I always thought they were true love. My dad chimed in from the side. Ben came back too, went to the hospital for a paternity test, and found out the kid wasn't his. You wouldn't believe how crazy it got that day. You didn't see Ben's eyes. They looked like he was out for blood. He just kept going on about how much he'd given up for her, saying if it weren't for Anna, he could have been a world-renowned pianist, that his bright future was ruined. Then this happened to him. He was crying and laughing all over the place, and he even got violent. The woman got stabbed a few times, but luckily nothing life-threatening. But Ben ended up in jail too. His parents wanted to settle things privately, but the other side wasn't having it. They insisted Ben go to prison, and in the end, they had to give the kid back to the woman. Still, they sold their house and paid a big sum. After hearing all that, it just hit me how unpredictable life is. When the moving company arrived, the alley was already blocked with boxes. I spotted Ben smoking at the door. I pretended not to see and turned to leave. But he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Karina, I regret it. It turns out the life I wanted is so miserable. Now I realize how much you helped me in my past life, and yet I treated you that way. I keep replaying the past in my head every day, and I really regret it. I really regret treating you like that. If the past events hadn't happened, if Anna had died, if the one with me was you, would I have been happy? This life, why didn't you stop me? Didn't you always like me?" Ben looked at me with pleading eyes. And I mercilessly shook off his hand. "Get a grip, Ben. Let me say it again, this is the life you wanted. No matter what you choose, someone like you won't find happiness. I did like you, but I liked that warm-hearted boy who played piano for me over and over during dark nights, not the Ben you are now." He finally retracted his hand in defeat. I left the alley without looking back, feeling the heaviness in my chest finally evaporate. The past is just like smoke. Ben committed suicide on New Year's Eve. His parents' cries were agonizingly loud. He left a note. It only had one sentence: "If only I could start over." I don't know if Ben will be reborn again. But I know this, someone as selfish as him, no matter how many chances he gets, won't have a perfect life. Life is supposed to be full of regrets. He blamed everyone else for his mistakes. People like that will never find happiness.